Hello. I hope you can all hear me. I don't know how long we'll go with the hat because obviously it's going to jingle every time I move my head. So we'll not maybe stick with the hat for too long. Please, somebody give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. I'm convinced, although I could be wrong, that even though I've had a fancy mic sitting in front of me every time I do a live stream, I probably wasn't using it, that it was maybe set on the wrong setting. So I am actually using the fancy mic tonight. You know what? I'll leave the hat on for a little while longer. Thumbs up from North Coast Drummer, Andrew from AZ, and Neil Lavery. Thank you, guys. Welcome to another little. I haven't done a live stream in a while. The last time I did one, stepped in for Roy again for the VPub a couple of months back, and it's funny. I've picked up quite a few patrons of late, and there's been people saying that they look forward to the next live stream and stuff like that there. And I am going to throw in a couple of excuses straight away about the live streams. I've said these before. One, timing, and two, actually subject matter is actually the bigger thing, because it's very difficult to sort of come up with something new on a even if it was a monthly basis, considering there are those out there doing live streams on the whiskey thing all the time, etc. So, not terribly festive looking in the room. Well, the lighting, I suppose, but I thought I would festive myself up. Somebody gave me or bought me this a couple of years ago for Christmas, and I would actually go as far as to saying it's almost plagiarism, but it fits. I mean, at the end of the day, you don't really get much closer than that whenever it comes to a t-shirt to suit this purpose. For some reason, my camera or whatever around me, the screen certainly I've noticed keeps going red. We'll not worry about that. We'll move on from that. This tonight, I'm calling this my end of year. I am going to lose the hat. Anybody who wishes to see the hat is going to have to watch the replay, because it's not that it's annoying you probably, but it's certainly annoying me. It's just jingling in my ears all the time. The purpose for this, and yet again, this was me wanting to do this. There was subject matter, because I wanted to dip into my end of year reviews. Now, this is me sort of looking at my year in whiskey. It's been a busy year in whiskey. It's probably been the busiest year I've had in whiskey. Certainly from the whiskey novice point of view, there will be, by the time the year's out, 52 reviews this year. This is probably the first year, I think it's definitely the first year, that I've managed to hit every week. And no excuses. Although the year's not out yet, I have to be very careful with that. So one of those reasons, and I'm going to use the term again, subject matter. I started the year with, at one point, looking at whiskies that were affordable, supermarket-y stuff. I can't even remember where my thoughts were at the time or what I was going with. As soon as I hit the distilleries I've yet to review, then I hit the ground running. Then I was in subject matter aplenty. I could keep going with that. So with that in mind, I've got a whiskey in my glass. So what I'm going to be looking at tonight is my reviews, and suggest to you is my whiskey of the year by the end of this. The whiskey that we'll describe it later on as to how I've described it. The other thing I do need to be very careful with tonight is keeping an eye on my time, because it is Thursday evening. Most of us, I would suggest, in the chat, which is where I will go in a moment, will probably tune into the VPub, Roy Duff's Aquavita's VPub later on, which starts at 9:45 p.m. here, UK time. So it's something I am very careful about not encroaching on that. So that was one of the reasons why I did this at this time, was so as it's a little precursor to the VPub this evening. And it's something, once again, that I've been looking forward to. So as per usual, I'll tell you what's in my glass first. And this is actually me getting in. We're skipping forward rather than looking back straight away at the year behind us. into the year ahead, and I reviewed an awful lot of whiskies in the year behind me from distilleries that I had never had before, but I would imagine in most cases it was a lot of whiskies that a lot of you had, or certainly from distilleries that you had. I'm going to skip forward because the first couple of months of 2026, I'm going to tell you now that I'm going to hit the pause button on that series, and literally for the first couple of months, January, February, review whiskies that came about, certainly came into my collection in 2025, which I wanted to review, but they didn't fall into that series. So here's what's in my glass, and this is going to show up very, very soon. The Arran 10-year-old Arran Barley. I tried this at Glasgow Whisky Festival in November and liked it instantly and bought a bottle as soon as I came home. So that's what's in my glass, and it's one that, without saying too much about it, because I will be reviewing it early in 2026, I did put a post about this bottle on social media, and it's good to see people pay attention. In that, I've always had this ambiguity with Arran regarding that metallic thing that I always used to get in the back of the palate that never sat terribly well with me. This, and it came and went in some Arrans. This, in my opinion, is lovely. Sláinte, apologies. This Arran Barley is fantastic. Giving away the game there a little. Let's get into the chat. It's good to see so many of you in, because I wasn't expecting a massive crowd, because I know an awful lot of people sort of getting in from work and getting into their stride before, if you will, before the V-pub. And then they get into the chat before the V-pub and everybody's chatting to each other, and it fills a lot of time. So it's good to see so many of you in. In first, Lee J. Brian, Lee J. Welcome, my friend. And not long behind that, Drew from Arizona. Drew, good to see you. Somebody I was delighted to see, because it was somebody I was thinking about recently. Luna Arran. Luna, great to see you, because I was genuinely thinking, I haven't seen you in a chat in a long time. Now, I don't hit the V-pubs as much as most of the rest of you. So yes, you've probably been there, but I just haven't seen your name pop up in a long time. And it's just so good to see that name pop up again. Neil Laverty's in. Big Pour, good to see you, my friend. I know, as I said, North Coast Drama was in the background. Scott Mathiason's in. Scott, I was speaking to Scott just yesterday in work. Always good to see you. Des, how are you, my friend? Gav's Drams, hello from Edinburgh. Gav, good to see you in Glasgow in November. Big Jimmy Jazz, it was also good to catch you, my friend. Always a pleasure to see you. Always. Michael Henry. Michael, hello, buddy. Please stop releasing special releases in the middle of the month when I have no money left. I will definitely be getting the money together to pick up the latest Loch Lomond distillery release came out yesterday. Rarith, a new name to me. Welcome, Benny Freese. Benny, always good to see you. I will dip into the chat and what's being said. But it is something, as I said, I do need to be very careful of my time tonight. Greg's Whiskey Guide, good to see you in, Greg. It was good to see pictures of you recently, Greg, with Toby Field over in France. And I always love to see international meetups like that. Whiskey and Wine Trails, Tom, a couple of guys in from Arizona. Good to see you. Richard Agnew in from Ottawa. Richard, I've still got your samples in the shop, Richard. I will get them over to your parents at some point. Sugar Kitty, hello. Let me see. I think where's Roy from Norway? Roy, it was good to catch up with you in Glasgow. Christian Jensen, the Yeasty Boy. I like that name. New name to me, but good to see you. Gary Field, also caught up with you, Gary, in Glasgow, and of course I see Tony Nelson in there as well. Tony Sim, your new to me series inspired me. Picked up my first Macduff today. Do they show up? Does Macduff show up I can't remember. Billy Bennett, hello, and Jeff Whiskey. Good evening, Jeff. Good evening, Jeff. Glad, and Jeff saying, glad to catch this. Glad to have you in, Jeff. So yeah, 2025 has been a busy year for me, both as the whiskey novice and in the whiskey shop. I've learned an awful lot. The thing about the whiskey shop, and something that I love about it, is that as much as I tend to talk about Scotch whiskey more, so I have or will have reviewed 52 whiskies, 2025. Of those, and I had to write this down, of those 52 whiskies, 44 were Scotch whiskies, 7 of them Irish and 1 English. So my focus as the whiskey novice every year up until this year would have been more spread out, is the way I'm going to describe it. There would have been more world whiskies involved. There would have been more, even, bourbons, etc., etc. I think I bought 1 bourbon this year, and it was a replacement bottle. It's not that I'm losing a passion for those things or gaining a passion for more Scotch whiskey. I just feel that more and more with independent bottlers, etc., the quality's there with the Scotch. The thing to remember is that I was also buying to review. So when I was into this, new distilleries, or not new distilleries, but certainly distilleries which are new to the channel, distilleries that I haven't reviewed yet, but most of them were Scotch whiskey distilleries. So it just was natural for more of my whiskey purchasing this year to be Scotch whiskey rather than Irish. And rather, when I say Irish, rather than world whiskey, should I say, because we do tend to describe almost every whiskey outside of Scotland as world whiskey. And to me, that was always something that was a little, being from the island of Ireland, the island which I would suggest, and certain historians would agree, invented the spirit. It's strange, I find, sometimes, to be describing everything outside of Scotch whiskey as world whiskey, but such is the grasp that Scotch whiskey has on the world of whiskey, that's pretty much the way it feels. Craig Blair's in, wishing a Merry Christmas, Jim, and the Highlands, and of course everybody else. An awful lot of Highlands in here tonight. It's good to see the Highland Battalion spreading out all the time. So yeah, a busy year. I'm going to throw in just a couple of little snapshots of things that happened in my year. This isn't going to be Jim's holiday photos by any means, but there's just a couple of things that happened in this year, a few things that happened, and I maybe will drop a few because I'm not known for taking pictures, photographs, which I should do. I should do more when there's events happening, when these things are going on. I should probably take more photographs. I either A, am involved in the moment and just can't be bothered or forget, or B, well, actually, the same answer. I generally am caught in the moment and can't be bothered. I would rather just enjoy the moment rather than capturing it. But I've seen some great photos throughout the year. I do not know why my camera is, or why the screen goes red at moments there. Anyway, Rick Johnson's in, Whiskey Novice. Good afternoon from San Francisco, Jim. I see I've joined in the middle of politics. Not really, Rick. Rick, it was great to meet you and have you on my team at Roy's Blind in November. It was fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed that. For Nightwater, hello, evening, Jim, Whiskey Novice, and all the barflies. Guitar flies is what I think it was Luna Aaron, who's in here tonight, named as originally the guitar flies. Sorry, legends. Glad to see you again in a live. It's good. I do enjoy doing these lives when I feel like I've got a subject to talk about. I enjoy it even more, and such is that tonight. Here's a little picture I'm going to throw in. This was the year, March of this year. I'm going to do this once. That I had the honor, and it was an honor, of pouring whiskey. There I am with my big old baldy head, of pouring whiskey for the King and Queen of Great Britain and the Commonwealth. And it was an absolute pleasure. It was it was an honor. It's not very often we get the chance to say that we did such things. So, just that it's something that stuck with me this year. That photograph or one similar stands in the Friend at Hand whiskey shop, and it's probably the most talked about thing. Customers coming in, oh, you had the King and Queen in here, and it doesn't matter who those customers are. Nobody or rarely does anybody have an issue with that. It's just good to see, that it was nice to meet them. It was an honor. It was a pleasure. So, Richard, and you, and I'm going to point it out. The top, seeing the top of my head, you rarely see the top of my head. It's not, and this is something. I mean, we've all known each other for many years now. I just like hats. I'm not ashamed of being bald by any means. I have a lot of hats, as most of you have probably realized by now. And it's just something that I wear hats. So there you go. That's not very often people see the top of my head. Greetings. Ho, ho, ho. Hurt is in from Whiskey Lovers Society. Good to see you, buddy. Let's then have a little look at my first category, because I've looked back over my 52 reviews this year, and I believe it or not, I did actually take time over this. And I looked over the 50. So this is me sort of looking at my choice of the year out of not necessarily. The thing is, here's the thing: we review whiskies. Us who review whiskies, I think everybody probably who's in the chat, whether we actually have a channel or an outlet for reviewing whiskey, I think we always are analyzing it in our own way. So we probably all have our own personal favorites of the year. This is only me focusing on what I reviewed. I will have had other whiskies outside of that. So it was easier for me to say, because I struggled at first to go, well, how could I pick? And every year I see my peers reviewing YouTubers, et cetera, picking their whiskey of the year. And I'm going, I genuinely applaud them and go, how can you do that? How can you actually, and I mean it, how can you focus and find one whiskey out of the year that you enjoyed most? Because I just found it weird to where you can settle on. So once I got it into my head that, well, if I settle on the 52 whiskies that I've reviewed, I could certainly cut that down and chop out, separate the wheat from the chaff, in my opinion. This is only ever my opinion. So I'm going to add to the stage Jimbo's Crimbo year-end review. This is the first, and what I'm going to do is I've selected 5 categories, and they're loose. Believe me, they are loose. And there's one of the reasons why I'm drinking whiskies I'm going to review next year, and it's because I didn't really want to drag in anything in particular that I reviewed this year to make a huge point of. Greg's Whiskey Guide, just before I go into this, I have to say that releasing a Whiskey of the Year video is quite something, at least for me, who is not editing, but I have to wait as some of my bottles haven't arrived in time yet, big delivery issues yet. I know that, Greg, we've all had them around the world, but I'm glad to hear that coming from you, Greg, one of my peers, somebody that I hold up there in a high standard, of somebody that, it is. I'm glad to hear that it is not just me who finds it a difficult thing. Jeff Whiskey said my rule is to pick my winner as the first one I remember as a standout. After filming, I always feel like I should have picked something else. Yet again, Jeff, I agree with that too. And the thing about it is that it can be difficult for us to remember that far back in the year. Anyway, my first category, and this was a simple thing, just something a bit simple, something to lead me in. My favorite peated whiskey out of my 52 whiskies that I reviewed this year. And there were quite a few. And the thing about it is that there were more than even made I think I selected out of the 52 whiskies, I think I selected 7 or 8, which made the final. And then I cut that down to 5. But out of that, or even in that 7 or 8, there were more. There were more peated whiskies this year, or certainly whiskies that had a peated element, the likes of Jura, etc. They didn't even make that. I didn't even consider them because they just, in my opinion, just didn't make the cut for a peated whiskey. So I'll not give you those that didn't make my last 5 because I can't remember. It's that simple, because it's been a couple of weeks, or certainly at least a week since I selected these. Here are my 5 whiskies that made my peated whiskey of the year list. Now, Ardnahoe Infinite Lock, the one that's probably out of this selection the most recently released. This was September 2024, the Infinite Lock came out. And it just, to me, it spoke volumes for Ardnahoe alone, in that this was their first core release after 7 years of producing, distilling, etc., and not hitting the market with anything, hemorrhaging money. Yes, relying on basically what Hunter Lang would have been bringing in, independently bottling, etc. Like most of them are doing nowadays, but it was just a good quality, in my opinion, solid classic peated whiskey, the Infinite Lock. And I thought this is me remembering back, because this was very early in the year that I reviewed this. So it's a good one. It's a standout. Lag. Once again, Arran Distillers. I am currently sipping Arran whiskey. This is, this is the person that had I always say, never as much as a love or never as much as a hate relationship with Arran. Just I couldn't land on an Arran that I truly loved because of that metallic note that I kept getting in the back of the palate. And I've returned. I go back to it going, is it still there? And I still find it. And it's a personal thing. And I know it's not just me, because people have commented on my review of the Arran 10, of the Arran Bodega, and agreed. It's just something. We can't all love the same whiskey. This Arran local barley, I absolutely love it. The Lag, Arran Distillers, peated whiskey. Good, solid. That sherry cask peated whiskey is phenomenal, in my opinion. I absolutely loved it. A couple of extras joined in. Papa Q, Jerry, good to see you in. I really enjoyed the Ardnahoe Lock, the Infinite Lock. I had the patient for it to reach Nebraska. He had the patience to reach. Good man. And Cool Running, good to see you in. Good to see you indeed. David Owen is also in. Good to see you, David. So that was Ardnahoe Lag, Raasay. I know these aren't necessarily, and this will pop up later on, newer whiskies, but they were new to me. The Raasay, Isle of Raasay, Lag, Raasay, the Hirak, 3 whiskies in this. Ardnahoe I jumped on pretty much straight away. I tend to wait with the newer distilleries to try and get their feet under them a little before I jump in and buy their first product off straight out the box. I did, as I say, with Ardnahoe, I did buy straight out of there. Pete Headset and Frank Sláinte, my friend. Raasay, we went on. Raasay, I just, this impressed me. This impressed me. Like Ardnahoe, solid, classic. Moving on, Cabocan, not a distillery. Obviously, we know Tomatin Distillery. The Cabocan, this is just the signature. This is sort of their very basic. And I know Benny Fries is in. I think it was Benny that actually said to me in a comment, and I had to agree, although I don't know whether I actually did or not. Certainly somebody commented on it when I reviewed it, saying that, if it's the signature, you expect almost something that they would nearly suggest is a signature from that brand that you say, this is it. This is our most basic. Everything else builds from here. That's what signature means to, maybe it wasn't, I apologize, Benny, if it wasn't you. Certainly somebody commented on it whenever I reviewed it. I don't know. Sometimes I think just a name's a name. It doesn't really matter. It's just a name. Personally, yeah, I could understand signature. Yes. I mean, that's, this is where we draw a line and say, this is our whiskey. But anyway, it was just a name. But Cabogan, this was the first time I had ever bought a Cabogan, and it was cheap as chips. So I just bought it to try it. Loved it. Not saying much more than that. The Hirak review went out just yesterday. Couldn't believe how peated this felt. In that it's something delightful about it. There's something just delightful about this, about that Hirak, the Oloroso cask. I know Frank's in here. I know there's an awful lot of people have issues with a heavily sherried casks, peat, etc., etc. Even though the Hirak is quite a low ppm, the peat just stood out for me. It just, and every time I returned to it, it just kept being there, and I just loved it. It was weird how much it stood out to me, and just played very, very well along with everything else that was going on. So that's my 5 choices of peated whiskey for this year. And I mean, at the end of the day, there's an awful lot of people who just do not like peated whiskey. Why would it be a focus for me? I do like peated whiskey, and it was one that, when I looked back over those 52 reviews, I was trying to think of, well, what categories can I pick? Where can I settle on to make a video out of this, or to make a live stream out of this? So I had to sort of pick categories, and peated is still one that I think makes for a good category, certainly where I'm concerned. And it wasn't just Scotch whiskies. There was at least one peated Irish whiskey that I could have picked from, but I didn't. Benny Free said, "Nah, I'd never put a comment that clever. Trust me." There you are. Apologies, Benny. It wasn't me. I'm not really familiar with Cabogan. I can't remember who it was that posted that, and I thought it is a fair comment, But there you go. So, drum roll. Brrr, my favorite peated whiskey that I reviewed this year out of those 5 is, anybody any suggestions? I'm going to just go put it out there to you. Anybody wants to fire a suggestion in there, what they think out of those 5 whiskies was my favorite peated whiskey of this year. I'll give you a few seconds because I didn't ask you yet. So you're maybe frantically tapping away on the keyboards, or maybe you're not bothered. Jeff's saying Ardnahoe. No. The lag, the Ardnahoe. Everyone's saying Ardnahoe an awful lot. The Ardnahoe was incredibly good. Oh, Sandy McDonald's and Sandy, good to see you. Do you know? I'm just going to give you. I'll tell you. It was the Rassay. Now I know that obviously the Rassay is, and I mean we're talking about cask maturations, etc., and there's an awful lot goes on in that Rassay, and this is probably Rassay at its most basic. To me, it is that almost, even though there's been an awful lot go on in it, it is quality, in my opinion, classic, a bit like the Ardnahoe, but just to me, there was a bit more going on in the Rassay. And the thing about it is that, once again, you guys, I would suggest probably that most of you in the chat had the Rassay long before I had. It was just one that I had held off on until a time when I sort of felt obliged to add it in as a distillery I'd yet to try there, Rassay. And I mean, it is heavily peated. It is, and it just, to me, not only, and I've said it many, many times before, not only did it taste good, is a good mouthfeel, good. it does look the part. I think it feels the part and everything. And I just thought it was a good whiskey. Any one of those five, I would have happily said was my favorite. But just the that Race for me was the one that out of those five, and this is the thing to remember that we'll have to keep reminding ourselves that it was the one out of those five I know next year, because when I'm reviewing distilleries that I've yet to review, the new guys, if we think about this, think back to most of the new distilleries that we have had in the last few years come online, and how many of them are releasing peated malt. And I maybe I was late to the theory about this, but I discovered this through Hinch Distillery, which could have almost get into those votes because I reviewed the peated Hinch very early in the year. That they released two very young whiskies, 3-year-old whiskies. This is Hinch Distillery here in Northern Ireland. One of them, and they're pretty much the same maturation. One of them peated, one of them not peated. And the peated one for me, I thought was a success, given their age, given what they're doing, and the price. Once again, it was about just over £30 a bottle. Yes, it's young, but 43% single malt. Fair play to them. At least they're trying. The non-peated one just didn't work. I'm convinced, and as I say, maybe I should have known this, or maybe it's just something I'm putting out there. Young distilleries, which most of the new Scotch whiskey distilleries we're talking about here, are doing a lot of peated malt, and I'm convinced that peated malt works better at a younger age and always did, because that phenolic feel, the phenolic notes, hides the fact that it's young. So yes, the youth is still there. That Hinch that I'm talking about, even the peated one, you can still taste the youth on it, the youthfulness of it. But the fact that it's peated hides the youthfulness more than the non-peated one. So it makes sense then for new distilleries to release peated malt, because they can release them at a younger age with the phenolic flavour hiding the youth of the whiskey. It's a theory. Shanzy. Macklemore and Lag can't go wrong with either of these orange drams. Agreed. Totally agree. Totally agree. Next in my whiskey year, and the reason I'm throwing this in here is because there were a few there. This was and I'm just throwing it in. This was actually Whiskey Live in Dublin. And I've literally just picked out one photograph, and it was the Glenmorangie masterclass. And myself and Craig Blair, who's in here, and Craig's brother, Craig's son, etc. There was a few of us went down to Whiskey Live in Dublin this year, but Craig and I and those others went to the Glenmorangie masterclass. And I, as we know, have said repeatedly, I'm still a Glenmorangie fan. I still think, and I mean, most of what they were giving us that day was phenomenal, and it just reminded me of what you get. I just had this incredible, for about an hour we had this masterclass, and it was just, to me, it was phenomenal. Most of those Glenmorangies sitting in this photograph were old Glenmorangies. There were a lot of their vintage stuff. I can't remember. Craig will remind me. This cost next to nothing. And in the middle of the tasting, they came down and they sat down. I have mine's on the shelf behind me here somewhere, a Glenmorangie Capita with the little glass stopper or the glass cap. And so basically, I would suggest that the glass they gave us was the cost of the what we paid for this alone. So the whiskies that they were giving us were free, technically. I mean, it was so inexpensive. I don't think 1963, Greg, I don't think I went back as far as that. I can't even remember. Once again, Craig probably remembers better than I do. what exactly we had on that day, but it was quality. North Coast Drama, I know, was in earlier on, but he's saying good evening to everyone. Tony, good to see you, my friend. Always good to see you. We're doing all right for time. We're doing all right, but I think we're getting all right here between the chat and what's going on. So I'll move on to my next category. And my next category, and this was something else. Once again, here's me sort of trying to think, how can I categorize what I reviewed this year? So this was one that I decided to do, the best surprise whiskey, and once again, personally, and sorry, I caught something at the corner of my eye. Craig Blair, for the folks based in the UK and Ireland, Rory McIlroy just won the BBC Sports Personality of the Year. And the thing about it is that I generally don't care about such things, Craig, but the fact that it's our Rory, I'm delighted for him. So thank you for letting us know that. Anyway, best surprise whiskey. And it was, once again, trying to think of a category that would work for me or something that actually stood out to me. Because what is a surprise whiskey? In a year where I was reviewing whiskies, distilleries, which I'd never reviewed before, there was an opportunity for many, many whiskies to surprise me. And many, many of them did. But it was weird how I remember, and the easiest way for me to show you this is to actually show you the 5 whiskies, because once again, best surprise whiskey. This, I probably had a good 10 whiskies selected and had to narrow it. I felt like narrowing everything down to no more than 5. So this was the category that I had an awful lot of whiskies this year, out of the 52 whiskies reviewed this year, that surprised me, shall we say. So here they are. The first one, Glenmorangie Twisted Vine. This one came from earlier in the year when I was looking at a supermarket entry-level whiskies. And when even to describe that as to what an entry-level whiskey, it's another one of the Glenmorangie are sort of known for their entry-level whiskies. They're also known for their great value for money, because I think the quality of Glenmorangie, and they got mentioned an awful lot when I reviewed, it was one of the wine finished whiskies I reviewed later in the year, and Glenmorangie, an awful lot of people were coming back and commenting on that video and saying about how good a Glenmorangie was out there in that same category. I can't remember what it was. It was a wine finished Glenmorangie. But I just think, yes, they are low ABV. Yes, they're, they could be thin in the palate. I don't know. I think they stand up well, given their price. If I still tend to look at these things and look back and go, well, if I was starting my whiskey journey again, I would be absolutely blown away by a whiskey like that Glenmorangie Twisted Vine. It's cognac cask. It just, it was just simple. It's just simple and it doesn't promise to be anything. But to me, it was a surprise then. It stood out. It had something going for it. Moving on to the Macduff. Macduff really surprised me. I don't know why, because I don't know what, the thing about what is a surprise, well, it's whenever you get something that you don't expect. A lot of these new distilleries I had, or new producers, or whatever they were to me, I don't know whether, in some cases I had expectations, and in most cases I didn't. But the Macduff, and Tony Nelson said it in here earlier on, he just bought his first Macduff today. It blew my mind how good it was at the time. And I say at the time, I mean, that's this year. That bottle's still in my shelf here. And I will return to that and enjoy it as I do. It just stood out. It stood out very well. €10. There you go. Sorry, Craig Blair's coming in. Oh, the Glenmorangie Masterclass was unreal. €10. That's what it cost us for those 5 whiskies and the Capita with the cap. Ah, class. Anyway, yeah, Macduff, that Macduff, a cracker, in my opinion. An Irish whiskey popping in, Bowan. Surprise whiskey, yeah, came earlier this year. For me, that's been on the market for a while, the Bowan PX. There's 3 pot stills from Bowan. This is their own spirit. The PX, Madeira, and Marsala cask finishes. Not only is this PX, in my opinion, a good whiskey, this is my favourite Irish whiskey currently, and has been since earlier this year, since I bought it, since it's been on the go, and it will be replaced. Of the other, well, there you go. Sorry, Craig, sending up the vintages there. But appreciate that, Craig. Thank you. Yeah, the of the 3 pot stills from Bowan, this PX to me is phenomenal. It's all summer fruit. It's all strawberries and even raspberries and just bright red fruit, and just keeps going. I love it. And was it a surprise? Yeah. I mean, I tell you, when I actually picked this up, so I was showing you that picture was in May. Yeah, Dublin Live, Whiskey Live. I bought the Bowan straight after it, and I drained it pretty much to the point where I have to fight myself away from it, and it will be replaced. Lovely whiskey. Scapa, here's one that I did have expectation for a little. I would suggest that distilleries I'd never reviewed was based on Scapa. Scapa were there always, and then they weren't. And they were on that list from day one. They were one of the top distilleries on that list of distilleries I'd never reviewed before. And when I went to look for Scapa, they weren't there. And then, just like that, this rebranded 10-year-old, rebranded 16-year-old come out. So the 10-year-old was the one. It was a good price. And it surprised me. It surprised me, actually, how good it was. Graham Aitken, as some of us will know from the chat, etc. Graham gave me a Scapa in Glasgow to try. I can't remember which one it was. He gave me a sample of a Scapa. I don't think the bottle's here. And I liked that as well. So Scapa, surprising, good. Kuboken, I've just caught an eye on my time, so I need to move through this a bit. Kuboken, big surprise. I was surprised, not only that, because I liked Tomatin spirit anyway. I liked what Tomatin were doing. I just was surprised how much I enjoyed that Kuboken. It's a weird peated whiskey that we were talking about when we were talking about peated whiskies in the last category. A peated whiskey, for me, a classic peated whiskey, and one of the reasons I believe that most people don't like peated whiskey is the ashiness that it leaves around on the back of the palate. To me, the Kuboken, and any Kuboken that I've had, because I've had a couple now since trying this one, doesn't. All of that peatiness comes around the middle of the palate and is gone by the time it gets to the back of the palate. And I like it. It acts totally different. So it was a real surprise to me. So moving on, I'll not ask you to guess this time because I just realized, as I said, the time. Drum roll, and my biggest surprise whiskey this year, and I can't remember because I'm literally, I have set this up a few days ago and I can't remember which I picked, but it was the Kuboken. There you go. Kuboken, yeah, I knew the 15-year-old was the one that everybody was talking about a while back. Probably last year, and then what happened was the 15 sort of disappeared a bit because there just wasn't stock of it. The signature just, I literally bought on a whim. It just, because I wanted to try it, but I didn't want to spend too much money on it. The signature fit that bill very well, so that's what I went for. And surprised, yes. Delighted, very much so. And there will be more Kubokens. There will definitely be more Kubokens in my reviewed. I'm going to pour myself another little dram in a clean glass. because it's what we do. And it's another one coming next year, early next year, that came out this year. The Springbank 5-year-old 100 proof. Just a little drop. Thank you to Tony Kane, North Coast Drummer there, for picking this one up for me, because I missed out on it, and he picked up a ball and said, I knew you wanted it. It's yours if you want it. Obviously, I paid him for it. But this will come soon next year. So I'm moving on to whiskies coming in next year as well. Another little event that happened for me this year, and finally made it to Campbelltown. Should have been there 2020. COVID ruined all that. So there's myself, our good friend Lee J, and our good friend Ben Slater, Whiskey with Molly. Went to Campbelltown in June. He has written down. And a fantastic time was had. Thank you. Huge thank you to Lee J. And there's obviously the iconic tower in the background. That Lee J's in here tonight, and Ben. It was a great time was had. It genuinely was. Moving on to the next category, because I have to be careful of my time here. Best newcomer. Now, this is one that it's a funny one, because once again, I said it earlier that a lot of these newcomers aren't necessarily that new. However, they all did come. These distilleries all did come in the last 10 years. So they are relatively new. Let's face it, 10 years in whiskey is new. So this is my best out of the 52 distilleries 52 whiskies that I reviewed this year. Remember, that's what this is about. That's what I'm reviewing. These are the newcomers that, to me, stood out. Ardnahoe, I said it earlier on. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. These were the ones, Ardnahoe were the guys that I was waiting with bated breath for, because a lot of the other guys, because I was that little bit later of joining sort of social media and the actual whiskey community, even though I was sort of watching these distilleries and stuff in the background, I hadn't really, I wasn't in the whiskey community. So a lot of it was going on. Ardnahoe was the one that I was watching from day one and enjoying watching the build up to everything that came. So that was why whenever the inaugural release came out, let's face it, it was, once again, to an extent, cheap as chips. It was about £75. And then whenever the Infinite Lock came, a good quality, solid core release, straight out of the blocks, brilliant, fantastic. Had to come into my newcomers easily. Lag, once again, new guys. I actually wrote these down for the simple fact, 2019, established 2019. So they're actually later than Ardnahoe. Ardnahoe officially established 2017. So, that lag, I said it earlier on whenever I was talking about the peated whiskies. Good, quality, solid. The Cora Craving, that one there, the one that I reviewed this year, good peated. It could have easily come into the surprise because it didn't have it was technically Aaron Distillers without the metallic for me, but it just had everything else going on. Ian Williamson's in. Ian, once again, my friend, pleasure to meet you in Glasgow in November. Third, Toravaig, 2016 established. Another one that should, the Old Glen could easily have been in my peated list. Easily. Another quality one. Great to see another distillery on Skye. I don't know about the rebranding recently and all, and shifting so quickly. Personally, I was only getting used to the branding that they had, and now they seem to have moved on a little. Ooh, this for anybody who's just moved in is the Springbank 5-year-old, the 100 proof. Oh, I have, as you can see, every time, as you can see, I have been having a bit of a go at it, but it's nice to actually sit down, give it its time. Yeah, Torvik, good. Copeland Distillery established. So Gareth established the distillery in 2016. Yes, gin, rum, etc. going on in the background. Whiskey was always, like a lot of them, it was always a whiskey distillery. Very, very small distillery. If you read, depending on what you read, it's the smallest distillery in Ireland. Very, very small concern. This year saw the official release of their first own whiskey, the 25.1. I do have issues with them in that they're since 25. I reviewed the 25.1 in probably it was in the summer. I reviewed the 25.1. There has also since that there has been the 0.2, 0.3, 0.4. Too many, in my opinion. But that 0.1, I loved, absolutely loved. There was two releases, both limited. So the 46% release and then a cask strength release seems to be the way they're doing things. Just releasing one at 40 with all of their points, releasing one at 46% and the rest at cask strength. I don't know what the longevity of this 5-year-old whiskey, £85 a bottle for this. That's a picture of the cask strength version. It was the 46%er that I reviewed. £85 for some 46%. And that's for a 5-year-old whiskey. That's what could push the individuals into it. I know where I was going with that a second ago, and then the words left me. And the other one, the Hirak, Isle of Harris, 2015. So just scraping into the last 10 years. A new guy once again. So yeah, and I know the guys are saying, they've only just heard of Copeland. Yeah, Copeland, very, very small. They, like a lot of new Irish distilleries, they have had whiskey on the market that they sourced in from elsewhere. This is their first stuff. This went through all sorts of weird and wonderful maturations, this 25.1. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I genuinely liked it a lot. I liked it so much that it was my winner of Best Newcomer of the Year. Couple of reasons. One, it's good to see a quality Northern Ireland, Irish even. That's just, but I mean, I've said it many, many times in the past that I'm not terribly patriotic certainly when it comes to whiskey. But it's still nice to see some of the newcomers. If they're that bit closer, then it feels, the little inner patriot starts to sing for them. And it was just a good quality whiskey. Out of the 5 of them, once again, any one of them, but a little hint of probably the Irish in me was crying for Copeland, and I thoroughly enjoyed that 25.1. I genuinely did. Once again, I've pretty much hosed it, and the thing about that is it's off the market. It was a small release, and most of them have gone. I do know that £85 price range for the 46%er was an issue for a 5-year-old whiskey. If I have a beef with it, if I were to and I have raised this with them, remove the 5-year-old age statement on there and just make it a non-age stated whiskey, you'll probably appeal to more people. Do you know what? Oh, that's much better than I have been having a bit of a go at this. Is it the occasion? I don't know, but I'm enjoying it better tonight than I have done. Speaking of occasions, on 3 occasions this year, and I don't know whether I've got pictures of all of them, but well, I maybe do actually. I probably do. This is I'm going to show you this anyway. This was the first. So this year I've hosted, and I probably have pictures of the other ones. hosted 3 Scotch whisky tastings here in Ireland. And when I say here in Ireland, so far 2 of them have been in the north, 1 of them was in the south of Ireland. And I'm not trying, I hate to use the word educate. I also hate the word influence. The term influencer really, really doesn't sit terribly well with me. It never did. I'm also not an educator. I'm no teacher. What I'm trying to do is open eyes and change opinions, because Ireland, as a whiskey nation, is incredibly patriotic about their whiskey. Can't fault them for it. Can't blame them for that. Scotch, and I learned this through working in the whiskey shop. Scotch whiskey has this. I mean, Scotch whiskey is basically, oh, it's all peated. I don't like that stuff. So I'm trying to open eyes and open palates and open opinions on what Scotch whiskey is. So I have so far hosted 3 Scotch whiskey tastings here in Ireland, with the intention to host more. There's already a couple set up for next year, so I'm enjoying doing them, and sure, it doesn't bring any harm. It's difficult. It can be difficult telling people what they should be drinking when it's not Irish whiskey. Next category, best indie bottler. Now, this is one that always tends to get brought up nowadays, best indie bottler. And this is going to be a personal choice again. I actually didn't review as many indie bottlers this year as I thought I had, that whenever I actually sat down to and it's because at the end of the day, I could have reviewed, which I did, probably 2, 3, maybe more SMWS, signatory, etc. So, but the actual independent bottler themselves then is what I was focusing on. And there's only 4 in this category, because I literally 6 independent bottlers was what I picked on this year, or who had been picked up on. And this is the 4 that I've narrowed it down to: SMWS, Fragrant Drops, Signatory Vintage, and What Whiskey. Now, I only reviewed 1 What Whiskey. I only reviewed 1 Fragrant Drops. I've reviewed more than 1 Signatory Vintage. I've reviewed more than 1 SMWS. The other couple were Master of Malt, which was the Macduff, and that boutique whiskey company, technically Master of Malt as well. But it was only what I had picked up on mostly was what I was focusing on. Pete Head, during the tastings, is there an Irish in as well? With, of course, the challenge picked the Irish. No, the thing about it is, Frank, if I would love nothing more than to be doing blind tastings, and if that were the case, then I would be firing in other whiskies. This is just to try and educate about, yet again, there's that word educate, try and open minds about Scotch whiskey and prove to people that it's not all peated, that it's not all evil, it's not all double distilled and therefore, not as smooth as Irish whiskey, etc., etc. Because that, at the minute, is the attitude, he says, as an Irishman. These were the 4 that I tended to settle on here. I was a member. I gave up my membership, I think it was earlier this year, of SMWS. Wasn't getting the benefit of it. Fragrant Drops, fantastic. They've become one of the big guys we're singing about, but have so signatory vintage with their, especially with their 100 proof series. What you get for your money is just phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. What Whiskey? I could have easily posted a picture earlier on of my visit with Lee J and Ben earlier in the year to see Mark Watt in Campbelltown earlier in the year, and what a fantastic visit that was. And it's not just that led me to making What Whiskey my winner in the independent bottler. I could have went Signatory Vintage easily. I do have one issue with Signatory Vintage, and it's the sherry cask thing. Too many of them. We need to see, in my opinion, less of that sherry cask influence from Signatory Vintage, and get more into what they're doing with the Glenord, etc., and give us more ex-bourbon cask or something else. Pardon me. just a little too much of the sherry cask. That's literally the only reason why, or the winner could have easily been Signatory Vintage here. The reason it's what whiskey is, I got an opportunity to try an array of whiskies with Mark that day, and they were phenomenal. You know, they were phenomenal. And I mean, what I liked about it was the variety of what they were bringing. So what whiskey then became just mine for the year. David Owen, Whiskey Novice. I was talking to some Germans the other day, and they said to me that they drink Irish whiskey because Scotch is all peated, which they don't like. Yeah, it just gets repeated. Dave, honestly, buddy, I hear it all the time. Whiskey Novice independent baller for next year to try. Chorton, yeah, agreed. There's so many of them coming up, and so many of them of absolute quality, Frank, and it's great to see. Very difficult to keep up with, getting harder to keep up with. Benny Freeze, indeed, all those cola-coloured whiskies, it give me texts from time to time. It's getting that way a little. I knew this was going to happen. I'm ending up racing through this. I'll skip actually my next photograph because it didn't really bring anything to the show. This was my second tasting for Uisce Beer Firsta, which is basically a Belfast whiskey club. And fair play to Seamus Og, who organises it. He had me my banner made, and that was very much appreciated. Didn't put it up tonight. Probably should have done, but that banner, stunning. I love it. Whiskey Novice, the Dalu, an 11-year-old, is the only what whiskey that is available here in Norway. Billy, there you go. Billy, pick it up. Is my suggestion. So let's get on to our last category, because I have about 8 minutes to wrap this up because I don't want to be encroaching on the V-pub by any means. Ian Williamson, Living Souls, another one to watch out for. So the whiskey which Jimmy Legg has popped in. He's late, but that doesn't mean I love you less, Jim. Thank you, Jimmy, and thank you, sir, for adding to the bottle fund. Always very much appreciated, my friend. I will see you in the V-pub. The whiskey which I thought was the best out of the 52 whiskies reviewed this year. It's not the best whiskey of the year. It's my favourite whiskey of the year. And it was, that's all I had to choose from, really, or certainly wasn't all I had to choose from, but it was certainly what I felt obliged to choose from. I could have easily picked any of the other whiskies that I had outside of that. A lot of them I'd already reviewed. A lot of them will get reviewed next year. So it made more sense to review the ones that or to certainly pick from the ones that I reviewed this year. So here they are. And you will notice a couple of them have popped up which weren't in any of the other categories. The lag is in there. Loved it. I genuinely love that lag. And I know I said about Signatory Vintage and the sherry cask stuff. I think that heavily peated, heavily sherried whiskies that work that well together are few and far between. And the Lag Coracravy was one of them. I'm talking in here along with the likes of Ardbeg, Ugadal, and the Kilhoman, Lochgorn, stuff like that, where it's heavily peated sherry cask working in tandem and working incredibly well together. The Boan, as I mentioned earlier on, I reiterate my favourite Irish whiskey. It had to be in here because I love it. That Kuboken, such a surprise, fell into two categories here. It was just such a that for a peated whiskey, and it's not. I will say again, not the last Kuboken I will be reviewing. There'll be another one coming very soon. And here's the little, throwing in from left field, the Singleton, the Glendullan 14-year-old. I loved this. Absolutely loved this whiskey. I will probably buy another one. I will probably buy another one while it's still in around the stupidly priced, like as in when I say stupidly priced, 40, it's still in the 40 to 50 pounds mark a bottle. It's phenomenal for that money. Drew from AZ. Drew, appreciate it, my friend. Always appreciate your support. More money to the bottle fund, more whiskey for reviewing next year. Thank you, my friend. And I couldn't finish without throwing in a Walt whiskey. I did talk about the Walt whiskey. I did say about the Dalune. I did say if you see it in wherever you see it, because it's not available online here anymore, buy it. Easily the best independently bottled whiskey I've had this year. Easily. So, my favorite whiskey of the year. Somebody's already called it, so I'm just going to go to it. It was the Walt whiskey. And it's a matter of fact, I have the very bottle right here. And I'm going to pour myself a little dram of it for you, my friends, because I appreciate the support. It is no longer available in our markets. I searched the other day for this, and with a certain amount of trepidation trying to find it, and then discovered that I couldn't find it anymore. Ian Williamson, and I did see Ian mention that he had picked up that Glendon for the price, and for the price, I just thought it was incredible. That Glendon, I've never drank a whiskey so fruity. Benny Freese, thank you, buddy. Tom, Whiskey and Wine Trails, payback for annoying you at Glasgow. Tom, you never, ever will annoy me, my friend. Never. I so enjoy your company, as do we all in the Highland Battalion and elsewhere. This is the Glendon. This is that Dalune in my glass. And what impressed me so much about it was, sorry, I have one more slide that I better throw in here. And if I don't, I'll be annoyed with myself. Of course, what capped the year, what finished the year was Glasgow Whisky Festival, and then everything that comes in around it. This was the Sunday. This was Roy's blind tasting, and it was just. I mean, this year was different. This was my favorite, easily out of the last 6 years. This was the best year for me yet. The tasting on the Sunday, new venue, worked out brilliantly. The festival itself this year, just such a joy. Really, really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. And the company, as usual. Whiskey obviously annoys me plenty. Oh, man. This. I said it in the review, and we're only going back a few weeks. And this swung this was also a big swing in the direction of why I voted Walt Whiskey as my favorite independent bottler, because this is such quality. It just, for me, every time I put my nose in this glass, takes me back to enjoying whiskey, finding the joy in whiskey for the first time. And once again, we're not going back hundreds of years by any means. Ain't that old, but long enough that every now and again, I think we all need a little jab to say, this is why you fell in love with this. It's because we can come and go. We can not necessarily fall out of love with it, but we can certainly lose that little passion. This is beautiful. Sláinte, my friends. Thank you for joining me tonight. Fantastic. Oh yeah. I'm going to wrap this up because I did want to. I want to leave a sort of 5-minute gap, or as much as I can, between me finishing and Roy starting. For my benefit and for his. Thank you for joining me. I genuinely appreciate it. Thank you for joining me this year. Thank you for anybody. I don't imagine you would be in here if you didn't watch my reviews, or at least know of my channel. So I very, very much appreciate it. Uh, yeah, it's been a big year for me. It's been hugely enjoyable. Going forward, I've already said it. Next couple of months, January, February, will be back into almost reviewing distilleries that we all know and I certainly know, etc. But until then, I can't thank you enough. And I just want to wish you all a happy holiday. I know not everybody. I mean, we all just say Merry Christmas, etc., expecting that everybody celebrates it. Not everybody does. But look, have a relaxing time. Enjoy. If you get time off work or whatever way you are celebrating or whatever, just please, please, please look after yourselves. And a little lesson. Uh, North Coast Jammer, Tony. P.S. Are you Santa? I've never said no, Tony. Well, well, I do say no, but at the end of the day, it's always better to stay on the good side because you never know. uh, Cheers, my folks, my friends. I will see you in the V pub very, very shortly. It's been a pleasure, and I'll speak to you all soon. Please look after yourselves. Here's to your good health. Cheers.